This is James Corbett of CorbettReport.com with your Sunday update for this 18th day of July 2010. And now for the real news. In our top story this week, a series of comments from prominent political operatives and media personalities praising the political utility of large-scale terror attacks are drawing widespread condemnation. In one of the latest examples, former Clinton official and Obama supporter Rob Shapiro was quoted in the Financial Times this week, seemingly hoping for a new spectacular terror event to revive the public's waning belief in the Obama administration. The bottom line here is that Americans don't believe in President Obama's leadership, he was quoted as saying. He has to find some way between now and November of demonstrating that he is a leader who can command confidence and, short of a 9/11 event or an Oklahoma City bombing, I can't think of how he could do that. The comment, which was swiftly and roundly condemned by political commentators, came as no surprise to those who have noted similar rhetoric from those on both the left and the right, who realize that the current political paradigm is constructed on the myth of a pervasive, monolithic, and ruthless terrorist conspiracy. In 2005, a confidential GOP memo was leaked stressing the need for a devastating terror attack to validate the war on terror and unite the country in shock and sorrow. These exact sentiments were echoed in 2007 by Dennis Milligan, who expressed the need for another 9/11 to prove war on terror naysayers wrong in his first interview as Arkansas Republican Party chairman. The idea surfaced again later in 2007 when columnist Stu Bykofsky wrote an op-ed in the Philadelphia Daily News entitled, "To Save America, We Need Another 9/11." Bykofsky defended his remarks on Fox News and was aided in that defense by John Gibson.
9/11 united the country, and it remained united, and we were all on the same team for at least a year or two.
Stu, but do you mean to say that we are going to be attacked again, we will be united again, that's a sort of inevitability to that, or that in order to achieve this unity, we actually need to suffer?
John, I didn't actually call for an attack on the United States. I can see where people read it that way, but I didn't actually say it. However, another attack on the United States is inevitable. I believe that, don't you?
Yes, I do, actually, and I think it's going to take a lot of dead people to wake America up.
Now, since Bill Clinton himself came out recently suggesting that opponents of the Obama administration were likely to perpetrate another OKC-style terror event, it has been the Democrats who have been arguing that another terrorist attack would be good for the country. This follows comments earlier this week by CNN's Rick Sanchez calling this week's bombing in Uganda that left 74 people dead helpful to those attempting to reduce global geopolitics to a simplistic paradigm of the US military versus a global terror jihad.
Our latest tally of the number who died, 74. 74 innocent people are dead. Joining me now is Gary Bernstein. He's a former CIA officer. But you know what's interesting about this? In a strange way, the event is helpful to the cause of those of us who know how sadistic these fundamental radical Islamic terrorists are. And if it helps get the message out there that these are not the good guys, then so be it.
Unsurprisingly, not mentioned by those who express a desire for spectacular bloodshed to further their political objectives are those facts that would tend to complicate the war on terror narrative. Earlier this week, a terrorist attack in Iran left 28 people dead and 167 injured after a suicide bombing at a mosque in the southeastern city of Zahedan. Responsibility for the bombing has been claimed by Jundullah, a Sunni terrorist organization based in Balochistan. The bombing is apparently in response to the capture and execution of their leader, Abdolmalek Rigi, by Iran earlier this year. Before his execution, Rigi confessed to American military support for the Jundullah organization.
Abdolmalek Rigi says he met the US agents in Pakistan who promised support for carrying out terrorist attacks in Iran.
The Americans promised to give us aid. They said they'd cooperate with us and give me military equipment, arms and machine guns. They told me that in Kyrgyzstan they have a base called Manas near Bishkek, and that in a place like this, some high-ranking American person could come and we could reach an agreement on making personal contacts. The Americans said Iran was going its own way, and they said their problem at the present is Iran. Not Al-Qaeda, not the Taliban, their main problem is Iran. One of the CIA officers said that it was too difficult for them to attack Iran militarily, but they plan to give aid and support to all anti-Iranian groups that have the capability to wage war and create difficulty for the Islamic State.
Although ABC News and The New Yorker have both previously reported on the covert CIA support for this terrorist organization, none of the American terror pundits are noting this aspect of the story. In other news this week, the finding that allowed the National Institute of Standards and Technology to withhold data from its World Trade Center 7 collapse simulation has finally been released via whistleblowing site Cryptome.org. The finding was made on July 9, 2009, and reads in part, quote, "The disclosure of the information in connection with NIST's investigation of the technical causes of the collapse of the World Trade Center towers and World Trade Center Building 7 on September 11, 2001 might jeopardize public safety. Therefore, NIST shall not release the information." End quote. Although the finding was made last year, the actual finding itself was not available to those who had requested the information, leading many to suspect that it would contain details of exactly how or why the data from NIST's WTC-7 collapse simulation would jeopardize public safety, but no such explanation is to be found. Analysts note the finding is especially odd given that NIST itself has claimed that the collapse of WTC-7 was an extraordinary event, unprecedented in history, and that they arrived at that conclusion using the computer model whose input and result data they have now classified in the name of public safety.
What we found was that uncontrolled building fires, similar to those we have seen in other tall buildings, caused an extraordinary event. The collapse of World Trade Center 7 was primarily due to fires. This is the first time that we're aware of that a building over 15 stories tall has collapsed primarily due to fire. We reached this conclusion by reconstructing the entire building, beam by beam, column by column, connection by connection, into a computer model, a virtual WTC-7 building.
Many are wondering whether NIST's reluctance to release their data is due to the questionable nature of the science underlying a simulation that many have pointed out is little more than a visual recreation of the initiation of a building collapse, which in itself explains nothing and does not even show the entire progressive collapse of the 47-story building.
Here is our structural model showing the building collapsing, which matches quite well with a video of the event.
This Freedom of Information Act denial is just the latest in a series of such denials related to 9/11. In 2007, the FBI rejected a request to confirm the exact process by which the 4 aircraft used on 9/11 were identified. In 2008, U.S. Armed Forces Institute of Pathology rejected a FOI request for records establishing the recovery and identification process for forensic evidence from the Flight 77 and Flight 93 crashes. In 2009, the Secret Service rejected a Freedom of Information request for White House visitor logs on September 11th and 12th, 2001. Currently, the FBI is arguing before the U.S. District Court of Nevada that 9/11 records are exempt from public disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. Finally this week, John Williams of the respected Shadowstats.com financial website has revealed the behind-the-scenes politics that prevents cable news networks from reporting bad economic information. In his latest subscriber newsletter, John Williams, who is famous for revealing the real statistics behind government-finessed economic data, relates a story of a recent appearance on a major news network. Aware that Williams delivers financial data devoid of political spin, producers at the network made clear that their job is to make the economy look good. Williams writes, quote, "I was advised off-air by the producer that they were operating under a corporate mandate to give the economic news a positive spin, irrespective of how bad it was." End quote. Meanwhile, in the land of reality-based economic reporting, Bilderberg researcher and best-selling author Daniel Estulin appeared on the Corbett Report earlier this week to talk about the ongoing global economic collapse.
You know, what was previously merely the risk of a double-dip recession, as the Bilderbergers themselves have admitted, is fast on its way to becoming a reality. And what's worse, it's happening at the same time as the sovereign debt crisis is gathering steam. You know, the bought and paid for economic recovery, as one of the European Bilderbergers said at the meeting in June in Sitges in Barcelona, is coming to a close. It's time instead to deal with a very sobering new reality. Again, the double dip is here. with all the attendant consequences for stocks, currencies, commodities, people, needless to say, nation-state republics, and the continent of Europe itself.
Now, stay tuned to CorbettReport.com for episode 138 of the Corbett Report, Geoengineering and You, where we talk to Rosalind Peterson of CaliforniaSkywatch.com about the toxic engineering of our skies.